Hey guys, welcome to Alumni Chat, Couples Edition. I'm Anthony Tucker, class of 2007, and your host, and I'm here with the Flicks. I'm here with Jason, class of 2000, and with Kristin, class of 1998. So we're going to talk all things Y2K, as well as kind of figure out how these long-term educators kind of stayed in the game and what drove them kind of to their pathway for their different careers in education. So currently, Jason, you are the Dean of Education and Humanities at Oklahoma Wesleyan.
Yes, sir.
And then, Kristin, you're entering your 21st year.
Technically.
Technically 21st year of education, all with Bartlesville Public Schools?
Yes.
Wow. I commend you.
Oh,
That's a long time in the classroom. So we were rattling off. So Kristin actually worked with my mom. My mom was her pre-K assistant at the now defunct Oak Park Elementary. So shout out OPP, Oak Park Panthers. Panther parties were legit.
They were
back
legit.
in the day.
I missed that school. That was awesome.
Throwing the rings on the pop and the cakes, like the whole community came out.
Yeah.
So we had a good time at Oak Park. So she probably see me break down a few times, me driving back to my mom as a freshman in college and be like, I just don't have any money. I got nothing right now. And then she's just like, what's going on with this kid? So they both kind of know me since I was like 17, 18. We used to read books to your class through
Broom Buddies.
Yeah, Broom Buddies through Broom Football. Real quick funny story I just put out on social for the lower third of the last Alumni Chat episode that came out. I put leading score of 2005 Bruin Football. Don't Google how many points were scored that year, but I was. Just don't Google it. And don't watch the Bishop Kelly game where I had to face mask somebody to prevent them from scoring, or we would have been 0-10. Like it was close. I did not want to be 0-10. So Kristin, kind of kick us off. So in high school, talk to me about what was your favorite song? What were the favorite things you like to do during your era here?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's funny. In my era in the 90s, I listened to all kinds of music. That was back when music had different genres and it didn't all sound the same, which I think we're kind of moving in that direction a little bit, I hope. Favorite song, I just liked all music. I was a bit, I'm just not going to lie, I'll say nerdy. I was a little bit nerdy in high school. And so I really just hung out with neighborhood friends. And I would play Foursquare in the truck, like in the cul-de-sac. That kind of thing. I do remember going to quite a few football games. Sadly, I never went to a high school basketball game.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And now that's such a huge part of my life. Thank you, Jason. But I had never really been to one when I was actually in high school. So I missed out.
Don't let her kid you, though. I mean, she had a Justin Timberlake poster in college on the back of her bathroom.
JT. Shout out.
So, a little bit of NSYNC there.
NSYNC
The noodle hair and everything.
Was that perm? It couldn't be natural, right?
I think he has naturally
Not
curly hair.
Not that curly.
Nice,
He had the frosted tips and everything.
Yeah.
It was pretty curly.
JT, seen better days lately. And then Adrian, your daughter, she plays basketball.
I know.
The Lady Bruins. Jason's helping out coaching with the Lady Bruins, and man, yeah, you went from not attending. That was some of the best memories from when I wasn't, playing soccer or on the field for the Bruins for football, was being in the Brew Crew in the old gym.
I know. I don't really know how I managed it. I did go to some when I was in college. I came back and visited, but I think when I was actually in high school, I don't really know that I came to maybe one.
Yeah, she could have came in '98 and saw me sit the bench at the sophomore.
Yeah, those are some great times. And I was in the old gym today with some kids, and I just put some music on. Somebody left a Bluetooth speaker up there, and I just put some music on and got on the mic and was like, then the starting lineup. And I was like, you guys have to imagine, we used to have this dude at the top with the spotlight, the old theater spotlight, right? And you know it was hot. It was burning up. And we'd turn the lights off, and the guys would run out, and we'd cheer for him. And then when they would introduce the Sandspring Sandites or whatever it was that night, we would just go turn around with the newspaper and chant boring. And
I do remember the newspaper. We were ruthless.
Yeah.
Oh, the one game I came to. We were ruthless in the stands and down on the floor even. Things got to be way down there.
Yeah, so, I won't say any names, but it's actually was my senior year. That bench there on the floor, that's when it got taken out, took it out, and they had to move up the step because we did stand on the floor there.
Yeah.
And then in the year 2000, that got taken out. And yeah, I won't say why or anything like that, but it had to do with, a lot of guys got called into the wrestling room in the middle of a game. And then, it was a girls' JV game. And so then they came back out, and the next home game, that bench was gone.
Yeah.
And they're like, you have to stand on this first step. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, it was a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those were always fun, and they were great memories for us to come together as a community. And I know, bringing back, class of '91 grad Tommy DeSalm, national runner-up for junior college.
Yeah.
With when he was at Cali before he went to Hutch. And I will say that, building that is going to take time, but it takes all of us rowing in the right direction, regardless of Lady Bruins or Bruins, whatever sport or activity. It's when we all come together. And I think that's why we could all agree what makes our little hometown so unique and makes our school district great. So, Jason, what was your song back in the day?
Yeah, I've got to be careful here. Yeah, because, I did listen to a lot of rap in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a specific song. I remember getting in trouble at times for some of the songs I listened to. So I don't have any specific songs.
Allegedly.
Yeah, but it was that culture, the basketball culture, and we listened to a lot of that in the locker room, and then in my little, Chevy S10 driving around.
Yeah.
So
did it have like the seats in the back where you had to sit sideways?
Seats in the back.
No seats?
Just single cab. Yeah. Stick shift though. So
hey, listen. Yeah. That's like I grew up learning stick shift because my dad worked for Wonder Bread and Frito-Lay and the big trucks. Allegedly, I learned how to drive doing that, helping him pull up on Saturday mornings, which was awful. He's like, "You don't ever want to do this, boy." And I was like, "Nope, I'm going to college and going to do that, not do this." So let me tell you, that's a skill, and it's a skill most of our kids now, unless they live in the country, they have no clue. And it's like it used to be like the clutch and my mom or dad screaming at me and it's smoking, "Do you want to put a new clutch in?" But I did burn the clutch in my mom's old Jeep within the last couple of years. But I replaced it. So nothing's funner than taking the transmission off the car.
Jeez, no, thank you.
And watching YouTube videos. Am I doing this right? So during your era, what was some stuff other than playing basketball that you enjoyed doing?
Yeah, so I had a really good core group of friends growing up. A lot of us were friends from elementary school on. And so there's a lot of guys that we grew up and played football, basketball, baseball together. We had a really good youth group in high school as well. She's actually a part of that youth group.
That's really helpful. Also, yeah.
Yeah, so Chi Alpha, which is still going strong at First Augustine Church, and it was pretty thriving at the time. And so we did a lot of activities with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you guys met?
Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah. We had the mid-high and high school, and since I'm 2 years older, we weren't in school together.
Yeah.
But we were in the same youth group, and so we knew who the other was.
Yeah. So the first time we probably officially met is after a youth afterglow, which was basically you had a youth event and then went to someone's house.
Yeah.
And I couldn't drive. So I was like, "Hey, I need a ride home," and she gave me a ride home.
Yeah.
I was a sophomore. So.
Yeah.
So when did you officially start dating then?
So right after he graduated high school, and so right after my sophomore year of college, we worked in the same summer day camp together with kids here in Bartlesville. And so we were assigned to the same class and same group of kids and got to know each other. And that's really when we started dating that summer.
Yeah. So 2000.
And got married?
Not until 2003. So we dated long distance for 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow. She was at OSU and I was here at Oklahoma Wesleyan.
Yep. So
Before FaceTime?
Yeah.
wow, we had to actually talk on the phone.
Right? Phone calls.
Right.
Have a conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
We had those prepaid phone cards.
Yeah.
A lot of those. So you got your minutes.
Totally ran it out. Yeah.
Minutes was a huge scheme, boys and girls, for our alums out there who remember that era. Because that's how phones, like the number of messages you sent, they would charge per message.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why BlackBerry was so popular, because you could do BlackBerry messages in between, and it was a whole different network between BlackBerries, and it didn't charge you.
Right.
But yeah,
I didn't have a BlackBerry.
Yeah, I know.
I had the old Nokia, the brick phone.
Snake.
Yeah, I was playing Snake on it.
Classic Jason, just
And you had to text with the
T9 text.
T9 text.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
so long.
So, so you went to Oklahoma State.
Yes.
So, kind of what led you to be in the classroom eventually?
Actually, a teacher here in town. So Coach T,
Yeah.
Earl Thompson, who made me cry. He was just one of those amazing teachers that believed in me. I had him when I taught 7th grade, at Central, which is super cool that I'm teaching there now when I went to school there. I had just moved to Bartlesville that year and didn't know anyone, super shy and quiet. And he just was one of those teachers that kind of saw me out, pulled strengths out of me, was super encouraging. I didn't have a lot of support at home, kind of a rough home life. And he was just one of those teachers that kind of went the extra mile with me. And I'd never really thought about education before. And then just, I don't know, kind of fast forward to college, I didn't have a major, really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I just kept coming back to my experiences in summer day camp when I just needed a summer job. Found I was really good with kids, really enjoyed it, really enjoyed seeking out the quiet ones and pulling strengths out of them. And it just felt right moving into it. And so my degree is actually early childhood education. Never, ever saw myself teaching junior high. So it's funny how you kind of end up in a different path. But, you know, kids are kids, and it's been a fun 20 some years.
And, you know, Coach T, you know, I had him on the show a couple episodes ago, and he was always a safe place for me. Like, I had him in 7th grade at Central, and he was always super welcoming, and it was always cool to have him like as a mentor, and especially that was like 9/11 happened during that time. And so, and I remember where I was at, and, you know, when the first plane, you know, struck the tower, and then the second, we were at Central. And like, we just all kind of super bonded within that moment, because we're at school. Do we go home? Do we not go home? But he always had a way about him, like, you know, where he showed grace and love, and he would try to help you learn perseverance through whatever task it may be at that time. But he would also just pick up the globe with one hand and just throw it up in the air, and he'd be like, "We got to do some housekeeping today, boys and girls." And they're like, "Oh my gosh." So, and then like I said on the episode with Coach T, like, I was so proud, and we were so proud as young Bruins to see him when he was coaching the Lady Bruins, storming up and down the sideline, you know, because like what you were talking about, you had to show up if you want to catch the Bruins basketball game back in the day, especially late 90s, early 2000s. You had to be there for JV girls and JV boys. So you would catch the Lady Bruins game, and it was always so cool to see him. Like, oh, I know him, because they're like superheroes. Teachers are like superheroes, and when you see him outside the classroom, you're like, oh, I just thought you recharged. You stayed overnight. You're a robot. So Coach T, that's awesome, and he's impacted generations and generations of Bruins, and he's still impacting them, even after being, retiring and being inducted into the Bartlesville Educators Hall of Fame. So, Jason, how did you end up in the classroom?
So funny story. I actually, I worked summer day camps and things like that. But my junior year, before I even started the summer day camp, it was with Bartlesville Public Schools. We had a spring break, and they were like, "Hey, can you work this? It's essentially after school care, but it's during the day because, you know, kids don't have places to go because their parents are working during spring break." And so I thought, yeah, I'll try that. I'll do that. I don't even remember how I got the job, but it was that whole spring break week. And that's when I really found, like, hey, I really enjoyed working with kids. All right. That's not the funny part. The funny part is, like, outside, it was actually at Ranch Heights Elementary. And so we were playing basketball on those rims. And then those goals were short at the time. I could jump higher than I can now at 42. And so they were shorter, but I went up and dunked. We're about to go in. I went up and dunked the ball, and the goal breaks at the base. And it falls on this kid and cuts his head open.
Oh my goodness!
Greg and Chris Claiborne, if you know them.
I played soccer with them.
I still apologize. So it fell on his head. He had to go get stitches. And I'm like, I'm going to get fired. I'm never working with kids again. So that was my first experience with kids, and it can only go up from there. So I was like, hey, I kind of like this.
And so where did you end up going to college? So you went to Oklahoma Wesleyan, and that was after the name change.
So actually in the middle of the name change. And so it was Bartlesville Wesleyan College my freshman year, and then they changed it to Oklahoma Wesleyan. I played basketball for 4 years there. I got my degree in English education, actually student taught at Central in 2003. So I've been teaching. I started in 2005. I kind of did 10 years. I did Madison Middle School. I was there 2.5 years. Started at the high school about 8, so 10 years total. Took a break from education, went and worked at Phillips for 5, realized this corporate world's not for me. I really miss working with kids. And so then I was able to get a position out of Oklahoma Wesleyan. So
Yeah, the old OWU days, if you remember the old school logo with like the eagle that was kind of like a flame at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even before, and we had to change that because of like trademark from other schools. We like basically stole our logo. So we changed that.
Ohio Wesleyan University. They've probably been OWU. Oops, sorry. That reminds me, I went up and played in a game against Indiana Wesleyan University, I believe in Marion, Indiana. And my mom's sister, they lived on a farm up there not too far away. So I fly up there for the game, and it's like November. And I'm like, oh, it'll be okay. And I get out there to play, and it's just freezing cold. It's like 10 degrees. And I think, oh, we'll just play in their indoor. They got a big indoor. Nope, we're playing outside in the snow. Okay. So they're like, you didn't play very well. And I was like, no, I was freezing. And the ball was a rock. If you know anything about soccer, you don't want to kick a rock. So common sense. But yeah, and I tell you, I was talking to a kid today, the kid that's looking at going to Kansas Wesleyan. I feel like there's so many great faith-based institutions within our country. And if you look at the history of higher education, that's kind of where all those original charters for those universities started, was with churches. But yeah, the kid was looking at going to Kansas Wesleyan, where Tommy DeSalm also coached the Coyotes. I think their logo looks like a gator, like it's kind of a long snout. And they play Oklahoma Wesleyan.
Yep.
So they play basketball and soccer and all the sports. Okay, so talk to me about kind of your kids. Like Adrian, you have Adrian, who's a senior. Mm-hmm. What has it been like to send kids? You literally went to BPS, you've taught in BPS, and now you've got future generations of Flicks just going through BPS. So what has that been like for you guys?
I mean, for me, it feels like home. It feels like I know I can trust my community to help raise my kids, essentially. I've never really doubted our school system. I've never felt like they weren't safe in any way. I've always felt that our teachers and support staff, everyone that has to do with the schools, are really watching out for my kids. So it's brought me a lot of comfort sending my kids to school, knowing that there's other people that love and care for them just like I do. Yeah.
And finding that is so hard, I think, in modern times, is, finding people that they're selfless and have that balance, like I always say, between patience and persistence. Like, you got to be persistent. But like we were talking about the other day, Jason, kids in a classroom, and you especially know this, Kristin, it's like they're all at all different social emotional levels. Educational attainment for them looks a little bit different. So how do you get them along and meet those standards and expectations? And they're going to be different per kid. Right. And sometimes just that love and patience is going to be more beneficial for a kid long term than them passing one specific assignment that you have within your curriculum in your classroom. So Jason, like, how has that been for you, coaching your daughter?
Yeah. I will say, so having never left Bartlesville, born and raised here, went to school here, then came back and worked, for the public schools. I've been here a long time, and I think Adrian got tired of, hey, are you Jason and Kristin's daughter? Like, he gets tired of that. Yeah. Now Anderson gets it. He's at Central. Yeah. He's at Wayside. But yeah, they get tired of, hey, are they your mom and dad? Or, hey, is Adrian your older sister, or Adrian your older brother? So it's been great. So what was interesting is, even through the job changes, going to Phillips and things like that, I've coached the entire time. And so Bartlesville Public Schools has been gracious enough to help let me, coach basketball through that entire time. So actually, I'm entering my 20th year. This is my 20th year coaching for Bartlesville Public Schools. And so it's been great. It's interesting to see, those individuals that you coached early on, and now they're adults and have kids, and you're like, man, I really feel old now.
Time is undefeated.
It's great coaching Adrian. She works hard. I do think there are probably days when she's like, man, I wish my dad wasn't coaching me. But in the long run, I think we're both going to look back on it and really enjoy the time that we had over the last 4 years able to coach her.
I had the ability where, Coach Kuntz, so Aaron Kuntz, who works here at the high school, I think he coached the Lady Bruins soccer program for like 11, 12 years. That's a long time. My youngest sister, Kristin, who was probably born about the time my mom and you worked together, she went through your class.
Yeah, I think I had her my third year.
So like so her senior year, I was able to help Aaron and coach the Lady Bruins with him, so we could have that moment. And it's so much bigger than ball, right? It's just having those memories. And sometimes when we're together, and now she has a kid, and she's having another kid, and it's like we're just sitting there with our kids and then just talking about old memories, and I'm glad we could share that. I can't tell you how many games we won that year. I know we definitely didn't make the playoffs that year, but it's so much bigger with that, and it takes maturity too, because like when you're young, it's like winning is everything. And it's like, yeah, but so is building a culture, so is impacting lives. Like, you see it the older you get. Like, I feel like life kind of slows down, even though we're busy, right? And especially you guys with kids going all over the place. But it's like you just see it through a different lens and a different perspective, for sure. So speaking about a different perspective, with you on the higher ed side, like, what does the day-to-day kind of look like for you versus like when you were here in the classroom?
It's slower. I actually don't have to have a 5-minute break to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's tough.
Go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I don't miss. But I really like the freedom that it allows me to not just do my everyday job, but also I get to go into schools. I get to see these kids. I get to meet with teachers and things like that, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. So I still get to get out in the schools and things like that, and I still get an opportunity to teach. And so I still teach Comp 1. I teach some education classes as well, some online stuff. So I really enjoy kind of the best of both worlds, I guess.
And especially when you talk about like teaching Comp 1, I would say concurrent wise, like we're at like the highest numbers for us. We're over 120 kids taking concurrent.
Yeah.
Great.
With Oklahoma Wesleyan, with Tulsa Community College, RSU, OSU. That's been a growth, I think, recently, because if I think back to my time here, we had like maybe one RSU class, maybe Comp 1 and Comp 2 that was taught on campus here, that was embedded, and maybe a government class, but that was about it. There's so many other choices, and kids who may struggle on, standardized testing, they can take placement testing for them to kind of get around that, because a lot of universities are becoming test optional and going off GPA and kind of character and as well as, traditional essays and stuff like that. Yeah. But, that's cool. And like you were here the other day and we were trying to collaborate so we can help level up some educators and get them in the funnel and be like, you'll love it. You just gotta get in the classroom. The kids will win you over. Like right now we have 13 kids across our 8 different sites here in BPS that are seniors here at the high school that are doing teaching internships. So they'll get an observation, like I'll go do an observation with them, and I'll talk to the teachers that they kind of rotate between a specific grade level, or if they're elementary, they're in a special, they might be with Mr. Graham over at Cade doing ours. He made killer boomerangs. Like when he was at Westside Community Center, we used to make boomerangs, and I definitely did never hit anybody with that boomerang. For speaking of, I'm so sorry if you're out there. I'm sorry. It's like one time I threw an apple on the last day of school in 7th grade at Central, and Mr. Sears like, well, Tuck, I think you just need to go home. We'll see you back in August. Probably wasn't the best decision. And I was like, yes, sir. I'll see you then. Have a good summer. Maturity, right? Like I was talking about. But all those things, like it just has changed. So speaking of change in our community, you guys have kind of seen Bartlesville from where it was at in the 90s and growing up as a kid to now. What are your kind of favorite changes that's happened recently within our community?
Yeah, I mean, a big one is, this is weird maybe, but restaurants. I feel like, we had Golden Corral or Western Sizzlin', you had Corn Dog 7 in the mall, things like that. Yeah. But we've got actually good local restaurants, and that's really fun. Frank and Lola's, you got Peanut Horse. Sterling's has been around for a while too, but it's fun to have these local restaurants in the community as well.
Yeah, and downtown is definitely the proliferation of downtown versus like if you think 90s era to now is wild.
It is wild. There was nothing down there besides Phillips. People that worked down there. I don't even know how they ate lunch every day other than the cafeteria. Which I guess we used to have off-campus lunch, and so we would go to Phillips cafeteria a lot to eat. But that was really it down there. I think there was a Subway.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The Subway,
a lot of burger in a basement.
Yeah.
I remember that. But that was really it. There wasn't anything downtown to really do, and now it's just kind of blown up. It's pretty wonderful.
Yeah. And we've seen the growth of like Parks and Rec, quality of life initiatives, through bonds within our community. Definitely the Pathfinder, who just, went through some upgrades here from the Shawnee entrance here by the high school.
Yeah. Even the high school itself. The fact that it's so different. I mean, it got off right there. Everything over there by the football field, like that was all parking lots. Right. The Fine Arts Center and all that. That was parking lot when we went to school here. So it's really nice to see. It's a great facility. Yeah. People come on campus and they're like, "This is your high school?"
Right.
Yeah.
We actually had some Oklahoma Wesleyan students that reffed our scrimmage the other day, and they're like, "This is your high school gym?"
Yeah.
I want to play here.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
And that's one of the great things about Oklahoma Westland, because, with international students who come into the university, they're going to experience America, and they're going to experience America through the lens of Bartlesville. And it's crazy because you see them, when they're like back on campus, because they're like walking everywhere, and they got their soccer shirt on. Like mostly soccer players, because I know with Jamie and the crew over there, and they're just used to walking or riding their bike, and then they show up over here and they ref, scrimmages and stuff. But it's like a great entry point, because sometimes like we get that kind of homer lens where it's like, oh, I've been here. Sometimes we'll have negative connotations about things, but then we forget how great we really got it.
Yeah.
And so like you said, Jason, like our high school, right? It used to cut off, like my senior year, we got the new library, so because we got the new Fine Arts Center, all these things start stacking up. We got the new gym, which I don't know, because the Brew Crew.
I know.
The Brew.
Hey, word on the street is the throwback game's coming back this year.
We got to have it.
That's what I hear, and we haven't had it since COVID, and it's just a great environment for the kids to get to experience that at least one time in their high school career.
Yeah, because they just don't get it.
Yeah.
And you try to explain it.
Totally different.
I'm like,
it's a different vibe.
Yeah, I mean, and the fire marshal locked the door. Like I used to have to climb like the old ladders outside and get up and knock on the window.
So the window?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One time, my best friend and best man at my wedding, like we were letting him in. I got there early, and the window just falls on his head. And I was like, "Are you all right, Brendan?" And he's like, "I think so." I'm like, "Oh, you'll be all right. We'll be at football tomorrow. It'll be okay. We'll go lift weights. That's responsible, responsible young adult thing to do." Okay, so we talked about some changes in our community. What is one meal that if you guys had to decide to take the kids out, and a local meal that you would want to go get? Are you like a big Dingspur family, or are you like Murphy's? Like what's something like a local calling card for a meal?
I think we just did it recently.
Yeah, Frank and Lola's. That's kind of our, that's a treat for us. We actually just took, all 5 of us went to Frank and Lola's last weekend.
Yeah,
2
maybe.
weekends ago. And we actually hadn't taken the kids in a couple of years. It'd kind of been a date night spot for us.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just wonderful. We love that place. Dinks, though, that's where we had our first date.
Yeah.
Was at Dinks.
Yeah, fancy.
Super fancy.
That's Southern fancy. That's Southern fancy.
And she's still with me.
Actually, funny story. I'm going to embarrass you just a little bit, but my favorite story about that first date is, I grew up, it was just me and my mom. My sister was older, and so she was already out of the house. I did not grow up with boys. And so our first date, I think he was done eating in 5 minutes.
And I didn't say a word, right?
You didn't talk at all.
Yeah.
He just ate. And I just remember thinking, what is happening?
Yeah.
Why is he eating so fast? I guess that's just what teenage boys do. I don't know.
I think I still do that because my wife's like, "What? You don't want to talk a little bit?" And I'm like, I'm very hungry. I definitely didn't eat lunch when you work in public ed.
Oh, right.
There's no time for lunch. And then, when you have a young kid, it's like, it's like impossible to eat out. Like you think, oh, it'll be okay. They'll stay. Like Wilma, my oldest daughter, she's 2. I'm like, she'll stay in the booster seat. Nah.
Yeah, not going to happen.
She was up last night at Mazzio's just jumping off those 2 steps above the salad bar. She was like, hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Mazzio's. And I was like, okay, let's go. I guess I'm done eating, but hey. Yeah. I think my favorite is definitely Murphy's, just because growing up on the west side of town, they do have white gravy. Let me tell you, I was shooting for the homecoming video that the Scott Vermeer and I put together, and I went back there to get some B-roll, and there was a whole pot of white gravy. And so then I made it at home. Didn't turn out so great when you do instant gravy, but I did try. A for effort. So anytime you try to cook, it's like going out to eat, you try to cook at home, it's just, sometimes it just doesn't work out. So impart some final knowledge for us. So people out there that are maybe looking for second careers, maybe they're retiring, because we do have a lot of great educators within BPS who this is a second career. And they do stay with us for a while because they've already got retirement, from another career that they've had. So maybe them, or even young people who are listening, why should they choose a career in education?
Well, job security for one. We need teachers, but I do think that our district is pretty wonderful in the way that they support teachers.
Yeah.
And then I really think our academics are very strong here. I know that we are producing students that are ready for college or career. They're ready for the next step. They are prepared. And that's because of our teachers and our education system. And so what we have is a well-oiled machine. And I don't feel like anyone new coming into the profession in Bartlesville is going to be thrown to the wolves. You know, I think they're going to be heavily supported, and I think that they will find that they truly enjoy it. So that's...
Yeah, I mean, the plug for just education in general, like no 2 days are the same.
Right.
For sure.
You know, and you're going to show up and you're going to be doing something different. You've got different relationships that you'll build with your students. Now, that'll last for years. Coaching with Antonio Castillo, who I coached as an 8th grader and had in 8th grade and then 11th grade as well. You know? And so those relationships withstand the test of time. And so it's really nice to pour into people who then will hopefully go pour into others as well. So absolutely, no 2 days are the same, and you get to build those relationships.
For sure. Like this morning, like I was telling you, I was in the old gym. I'll go from the National Guard teaching CPR on the dummies, right? And the kids just doing crazy things, right? Trying to stay focused. And you're like, oh, okay, calm down. And then going to, you know, helping open doors for kids, you know, with career opportunities through internships and fellowships. And it is never the same, and there's never enough time in the day.
Right.
But then your cup is always full when you look at it from the perspective of who did I impact today?
Right.
When I think of people that I've either worked with or had as a teacher or a counselor or a coach, like I really judge them by how they made me feel, you know, in that moment, or how I saw them with other kids. Like we all have to do, there's procedural stuff we all have to do every day, check a box, and we got to check that off. But there's substantive change that we can influence. And if you seize those moments of opportunity, you'll always have your cup full, and you'll make somebody feel welcomed. And like you said, you end up coaching with them, and they might tell you were the inspiration for it. So like you talked about Coach T, you know, you could be that inspiration, and we have that opportunity every day in education, and every day is a new day. So, you know, part of my day, I just hold up a sign that says like, the world needs you. And I've got all different signs I make kids make for me. So I'll take a break from, you know, working with organizations, you know, or in our community, and just do it for 5-10 minutes and just do something different. Just see faces, engage with them. Because, you know, Mr. Sears was always great, you know, at Central doing that. He'd memorize everybody's name by like the second day of school. And I'm like, how did you do this, Earl? I don't know. How did you teach shop? I still have so many questions for Mr. Sears the more I learn. But man, that dude was so great. Like there was one time I was at the Capitol for Claremore Day at the Capitol, and I was working in economic development for Dr. Rice at Rogers State. And I was there, and I was in a room, and it was kind of, you know, it's very awkward when you have like a day at the Capitol, like, because you're like, please come in so I can pitch my organization or my community. And like, your guys are definitely going to be there, you know, that your reps and senators. But Earl comes walking in, and he's like, oh, Anthony, what's going on? Mr. Tucker, how's it going? And everybody's like, how did you know him? Like, golly, like, you know, I'm like, he always just had that effect where it just light up a room to make you feel like you were the brightest bulb, you know? And that's the opportunity we have every day. So Cupid definitely struck these two, and we're so thankful for what they've done and the collaboration that we still have. And I enjoy working, you know, and collaborating with Jason in Oklahoma Westland, and that's a great partnership for BPS. So thanks for coming on Alumni Chat with me today and taking some time away from your kids, and coming right after basketball practice. Let's go, Lady Bruins. We're not going to get into the changes. There's no conference anymore. We're in district now, just like football. But thanks for joining me today. I appreciate both of you, and appreciate what you've done for kids for all these years.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, we'll catch you on the next episode. Let's go, Bruins.